So let's talk about cube roots. Well, when we have, let's say we have an equation like x to the third power equals 8. That means some number to the third power equals 8. What is that number? Well, if we think through some numbers, 1 to the third power is 1, and 2 to the third power is 8. So we say that 2 is the cube root of 8. So x is the cube root, and we're going to write it like this, like a square root. The cube root of 8 is 2. 2 is a number that you have to raise to the third power to get 8. And the nickname for third power is cube. All right? So here, x to the third power equals negative 27. What is that number? Well, what we're looking for is we're looking for the cube root of negative 27. Oh, wait. Can we cube root negative numbers? Well, is there a number that you can raise to the third power to get negative 27? Well, there is. It's negative 3. Because negative 3 cubed is negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. These two negatives make a positive times this negative here, which makes a negative. So it'll be negative 27. We get positive 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. Okay, so the answer is negative 3. So yes, we can cube root negative 27. So these are what we call cube roots. All right. So a cube root of a real number a is written like this. The cube root of a. It looks like a square root, but we have this little number up here. This number is called the index. And if b to the third power is a, then the cube root of a is b. Okay, it's just the opposite of a third power. All right. All right. So let's practice some cube roots. What number can be cubed to make 1? Well, that number is 1, because 1 to the third power is 1. What number can be cubed to make 8? Well, the cube root of 8 is 2, because 2 to the third power is 8. So we're saying, what is the number that we raise to the third power to make 8? And that number is 2, because 2 to the third power is 8. So 2 is the cube root of 8. It's where 8 comes from, you can think of. What if it's negative? Well, the cube root of 8 is 2, so the cube root of negative 8 is going to be negative 2. Because negative 2 cubed is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4 times negative 2, which is negative 8. Okay? All right, what about the cube root of negative 64? Well, the cube root of 64 is 4, so the cube root of negative 64 will be negative 4. Okay, that's the idea. So now we can see that when we cube root, it's the opposite of cubing. So the cube root of a cubed is a. And we don't need absolute values because a does not have to be a positive number. We can get a negative number when we cube root. That's totally fine. Okay. All right. How about the cube root of negative 125? X to the third. All right. Starting this simplifying, we need to rewrite this as cube root of something cubed. So we've got to ask ourselves, what can we cube to make 125? Well, if you look back at your list, 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So 5 is a number that we need to cube to get 125. Oh, but wait, we need negative 5, so this will be negative. Okay? All right, what can we cube to make x cubed? Well, that is x. X to the third power is x cubed. Negative 5 to the third power is negative 125. So these two things are equivalent. This highlighted one under there, and this highlighted thing under the square root or the cube root here. Those are the same thing. They're worth the same. So since they're the same thing, we can rewrite it. And since it's in this form over here, that's nice, because now this cube root and this cube kind of cancel each other out. They're inverses. And so that leaves us with what's inside, negative 5x. It's totally fine that it is negative. Nothing wrong with that. So we've seen square roots, we've seen cube roots, and we can take this farther, all right? It can be fourth roots or fifth roots. A root is just the opposite of an exponent. So the nth root of a is written like this. We call this the nth root of a. N is, the number could be 2, would be squared. If n is 3, it's a cube root. Or it can be 4, 5, or 6. Just means what number can we raise to a power to get this thing inside. All right? And this number n right here is called the index. That's important. All right? So that n is that index. Now, if it's an odd, we call it the odd root. If n is even, we want the principal root. That means it needs to be positive. So if it's even, we got to think about it being the absolute value. All right? So if we have the fourth root of 16, that means we think what number to the fourth power is 16? And that number is 2. So the fourth root of 16 is 2. And then we think about the fourth root of negative 16. And we say, what number to the fourth power is negative 16? Well, there is no number. It's not possible. So this does not exist, we'll say, D and E. Okay? No such number. This can't be done. All right? What about the negative, the fourth root of 16? Well, the fourth root of 16 is 2. And this negative, since it's outside, is just coming along for the ride. This is different because here the negative is not underneath. We're taking the fourth root of positive 16 and making it negative. All right? See the difference there? Okay. And what about a fifth root? Can we take the fifth root of negative 81? Well, we can, because we're saying what number to the fifth power equals negative 81? Well, 3 to the fifth power. 3 to the fourth power is 81. Does this exist? And it does, and we can come down here to our calculator. You can use Desmos or you can use your other calculator. And we have on Desmos here, under functions, we have an nth root. On your graphing calculator, you'll find it under math and number. So this is we wanted the fifth root of negative 81. And there it is, negative 2.4. It does exist. Now this is an irrational number. It never ends, it never repeats. So this is about negative 2.4. Let's see, what is it? 2.408. And that's approximate. We've got to round it off somewhere. Okay, you guys remember how to round? So when we're rounding, we took, this was negative 2.40822. I decided to cut it off at 3 digits. And so our rounding rules, we check, is this 5 or greater? And the answer is no. So we just cut it off. If this number was 5 or bigger, we would round this last digit up to a 9, 409. But it's not bigger than 5 or equal to 5, so we just cut it off and we approximate it. All right, so that's rounding. So there you have it. Okay, so simplifying in general, if we have the nth root of a to the n, it's just if n is even, then this is going to be the absolute value of a. We need absolute values. If n is odd, then the nth root of a to the n is just a. Okay. All right, so we'll pause that there and we'll look at some examples in the next video, but that's the big idea.